This is a summary of the first article about the travel ban. Arizona Muslims denounced the Supreme Court's ruling upholding President Donald Trump's travel ban, saying the decision validated Islamophobia as an acceptable form of bigotry in a country founded on religious liberty. The travel ban restricts travel from Iran, Libya, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, Venezuela, and North Korea. 5 of the 7 countries are majority Muslim nations. Suzanne Bassel of the Arizona Muslim Alliance said this decision is really telling people who are members of minority religions that they are outsiders. It allows the Trump administration free rein to continue to discriminate. This violates equal protection. This violates freedom of religion, and make no mistake about it, this impacts all of us. Naruro Hassan is a 20-year-old Somali refugee, said she felt displaced after the decision. Despite having created a life in the Valley as an Arizona State University student, she said the ban attacks the essence of who she is and what she believes, making her feel like a stranger in her new home. United Islamic Center of Arizona leader Didmar Faha said the ban amounted to blaming whole countries for some individuals who may be terrorists or wrongdoers, unfairly denying the entrance of Muslims with clean records. It may not say it explicitly, but this is very clearly targeting a specific group. This decision goes against what this country is made of and stands for in terms of immigrants and in terms of diversity and religious freedom. Imran Siddiqui said native and foreign-born Muslim Americans alike felt their constitutional rights were being violated in the wake of the travel ban decision. If the same types of statements were made about another religious group, it would be completely unacceptable. But Muslims have been made into this caricature through the lens of national security. The president indeed promised to ban Muslims during his campaign and has continued to stoke anti-Muslim sentiment since taking office. Behavior the 4 dissenting justices said indicated religious animus behind the travel ban. I think that's good for now.
All right. What I'm going to do is going to explain the travel ban. Many people believe that the travel ban is put there because they are Muslim countries, but I believe they are put there because these countries have terrorist affiliation. So why not try to stop that from coming into the United States? Executive Order 13769 is protecting the nation from foreign terrorists entering into the United States. 2 of these countries, Venezuela and North Korea, are not Muslim countries. Venezuela is just suffering from a hyperinflation from our dollar being to 6 million bolivars, just showing how socialism doesn't work. North Korea has always had a rocky relationship with the United States. And to start off with the first Muslim country, Iran. Iran has always had problems with the United States, always threatening us with nuclear war. Going with Syria. Syria has lost one of its major cities in Raqqa to terrorist organizations and ISIS. Libya has suffered from the removal of President Gaddafi, giving civil war and letting ISIS flourish throughout the country. Somalia, one of the world's poorest countries, dealing with radical organizations and Al-Shabaab that use child soldiers for its attacks on government and military targets. Sudan, another government that has been fighting with many rebel groups. To me, it just shows that it might look like that, but these are countries that are high risk. They are all level 4, which means us as Americans, it'd be really hard to get into there. So I just think essentially the travel ban isn't there because they're Muslim countries, but it's there because these are dangerous countries that we should protect our borders from.
Now a summary of the second article. On March 4, 2 women, 32 and 51, that called themselves patriots, drove to the Tempe Islamic Community Center with 2 dogs and 3 children and ridiculed Muslims for nearly 25 minutes. They went through unlocked gates, they passed a non-trespassing sign and into the courtyard, and they took devotional pamphlets from a drawer and posters from a bulletin board. They were insulting Muslims and how they used the Constitution against American citizens. Their charges were burglary, referring to entering a premise with intent to commit a felony, and aggravated criminal damage in a place of worship, also child endangerment and disorderly conduct. The event was nationally noted as anti-Muslim sentiment. On July 12th, they were negotiating a settlement with Montgomery, who took over the case, which was unusual due to Montgomery's political leanings. He defended himself, saying he's looking for justice, and the people want real consequences to send the message of justice. A Phoenix attorney said that there might be First Amendment implications, and I quote, "Speech ought to be protected even if it's the most offensive type of speech." It is clear that Muslims have been a recent target, and there is clear fear. Montgomery has been working with ICC for better understanding of the situation, and the attorney of one of the ladies said that she demonstrated remorse. A spokeswoman from the Islamic Community Center said that they were a forgiving community and they're open to offer an informational and educational session to the women, the children, and the community. And they also want the community service to be served at ICC.
In regards to the lady breaking into the mosque, it does seem that there is some institutional bias against Islam in the fact that the mosque is considered a place of worship, and if the ladies entered maybe like a Christian church or a Mormon church, they would not have been charged with trespassing, which is kind of awkward that one religion has special relations in the law where they're not considered public property like most other places of worship. A place of worship should not have a no trespassing sign, so I don't understand why they're not held equal to all other religions. In regards to the Sheriff Montgomery lowering the woman's prison or potential fines along with incrimination, that's completely within his legal standard to do that. That has nothing to do with since the crime was perpetrated against Muslims. In regards to the travel ban, like the previous person mentioned, these are countries that we don't want to import their values into our country, whether it's Venezuela, North Korea, or any of these Muslim countries as well, because their worldview and their cultural traditions are diametrically opposed to those of American traditions of freedom and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Islam is more of a civilization along with a very powerful ideology that does not mesh well with freedom and personal liberty. There's a couple stories in the Islamic text that suggest Muslims are never true friends to an infidel, which is just someone who does not believe in their God. But that doesn't mean they can't act friendly to them, because if you think about whenever you go to a car lot, you meet a lot of friendly people, but they're usually not your friend. So in this way, Islam basically is one of the religions that promotes treat others the way they want to be treated in order to advance Islam. So as long as you're blissfully ignorant to what they're actually doing, and getting legal suppositions over other religions, it does show that there's an institutional bias against Islam. But then again, these values again are opposed to ours because they're religiously centric, where we have more of a separation of church and state. So we're more secular here, whereas if you start having Muslims in Congress and stuff, they're also going to start bringing in their religion to the laws as well. In regards to national safety on the travel ban, we just have to look at Europe because it's such a small landmass compared to population. You're able to see the effects of immigration from those countries at a bigger scale than you would in the United States, since we have such a large landmass. Europeans can't even go into no-go zones, which are basically just parts of the city that Muslim migrants have heavily populated. And just the presence of a European there is considered provocative and violence-inducing against the Muslim community. Just the mere presence of someone is apparently violence-inducing. We're ignorant to think if these problems can arise here because Western Europe's already being Islamized, and tolerance to intolerant cultures will only lead to intolerance's dominion because they'll have the backbone to actually do something rather than try to appease the other person. The ban is not racist at all because Muslims are not a race, they're an ideological community.